Anyway, so Samsung, yeah, I mean, look at it. Like, here's the craziest part about this. So 17 billion's coming in. In the article, they talked about 2,000. They said 1,800 jobs, but the reality is it's going to be a lot more than 1,800 jobs. Plus, I mean, look at all the money it's going to be. Okay, 17 billion is going to not necessarily get invested in Austin. A lot of, people outside of Austin are going to make some of that money. But that's a lot of billions that's going to be funneling into the Austin area. All the jobs they get paid for, developing and bringing in and building the development. Plus, obviously, they're going to feed. I mean, we all knew they were coming to Austin because they're going to feed Tesla. Tesla's right there. So like Ian said, so I wasn't shocked by this. I was shocked by the fact that they picked Taylor over next to where Samsung was to begin with. Like, they already have a Samsung plant.
Look at the costs of land over there.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, right? Taylor, there's nothing in Taylor right now.
Yeah, it's always been really you could have purchased a home there and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like 5 or 6 years ago, you could have bought one of those downtown old homes, this very small ones, for under 100 still.
Oh, easily. No.
Yeah.
I've sold for under 100 there recently, fairly recently. I mean, they were tear downs or close to it, but yeah. Here's the thing that a lot of people may not know. There's actually a train to downtown Taylor.
Oh, is there really?
I had no idea.
Right. And so that could be another reason, if you think about it, a manufacturing plant having access to transportation, rail system, that's clutch, right?
I was actually, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Well, and I was going to say, obviously, also the proximity to the highway, and you've got access to the airport. So because of how close it is, I mean, it's 10 minutes to 1:30, and then from there, you're downtown in another 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's a really short drive for a lot of people. And to get to the other Samsung plant, you're looking at 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to do a full video and talk about this, like where to buy and all this stuff. But I mean, let's see. So if you're looking at where the plant is, it's right here, kind of between Hutto and Taylor. So the reality is, like, Hutto is 10 minutes away. Taylor's right here. But think about the developments east. There's nothing. If you go try to look on the MLS, there's nothing for sale in Taylor.
I've sold in Thrall before and in Rockdale.
Well, and that's
about far. I've sold in Rockdale before.
That's my point. So if you're thinking about people who are going to be working there or moving in, like, what's 10 minutes to Taylor? Thrall, Thorndale, Rockdale's 20 minutes. So, I mean, this doesn't necessarily have to mean that the areas close, like Georgetown, Round Rock, Pflugerville, are going to see, a lot of this money, but, they will for sure. But I think if you're looking at Thrall, Thorndale, those are great places to probably invest. And, obviously, I think, just it's easy math, right? Georgetown, Round Rock, Pflugerville, Manor, Elgin, all of those areas are going to see huge, price increases because of this, right? Because you're talking about 2,000 jobs plus all the jobs are going to be here while this thing's getting developed. It doesn't just, okay, here's 17 billion, there's a plant. So there's going to be years of this money coming in.
What's missing here, and tell me how you feel about this, Kevin, especially being, kind of familiar with a lot of development that's going on. If you look the line across Pflugerville, Seal, and Copeland, you see that there's almost an imaginary line where a major road needs to go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
so you see the 79 and you see the 290. There's nothing there. I would say that's a solid opportunity to invest in because they're going to put a major road there. They have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be interested to see, what other constraints might be in the area. If you have floodplain anywhere near there, which
and if you scroll out a little bit, Jeremy, you see that Dessau, scroll in one more. That Dessau area is where in Pflugerville, I think it was one more scroll in, is where the Samsung plant currently is, right?
Yeah, it's right here off of
So, and you have the executive airport. So it only makes sense for that line to cut across.
Yeah.
To the new Samsung plant.
I mean, if that property is 1,000 acres too. That's not a small property. It's not like they bought 100 acres. They bought 1,000 acres.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that big plan's there. It's not just a little bit. I did read that they said overall, I think tax incentive wise, they're expecting Samsung to benefit by like $1 billion worth of tax incentives over the 20 years that they're going to be getting stuff. So, I mean, but it makes sense, and it's great for the area.
So it's supposed to be 6,500 construction jobs leading up to it too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have 2,000 long-term jobs, but 6,500 construction jobs. And then, you know, we've had this song and dance before. When something big comes in, you also have all these people that have spouses, or some people that may have spouses. Well, if their spouses are here, what are they going to do? Right. They're going to look for jobs. They're going to need to do something. A lot of them might create small businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Taylor's cute too. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, actually, when I went down there, and just right on the main street, there's some really cool like coffee shops, bar, kind of a quaint little downtown feel. So, I mean, I think it's great for that area.
It's right on 4th Street. Yeah.
Now, I will say this. Okay. When you think about like hub and spoke models for urban developments, I do agree that there's going to be some opportunity to invest in that area long term. But what the more exciting part about that for me is that when I see developments happening in further outer suburbs, that actually increases the value even more for the development opportunities closer to town, right? Because they're like, cool, now we're justified going as far out now as Taylor, right? Now Taylor has become pretty much where before it was Hutto. Now Taylor is kind of the edge of the reasonable development area where you could build a subdivision, sell those houses, and people are expected to drive into town. So now, like the Death South area, I think that whole section now is gonna fill up with subdivisions, like all that area.
And I was just out there today looking at a property for an investor, and like there's so much room to build out there still. Like there is so much room out there to build. So. I would imagine, and then think about it too. We've talked about the Palmer East project that's being put out there. I could not think of a better project to be being put out there, because there's nothing really, once you get past I-35, it's all homes out there. I mean, maybe a few gas stations, but there's nothing out off Palmer. So that Palmer East that they're putting in there, I think is going to be killer for that area. And if I were a developer, I would be trying to buy land out there right now, trying to put something else out there. Do you know of any other developers buying out there, Kevin?
I know one.
Yeah, but you're putting in more homes, not putting in. Are you doing?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of opportunity out there, I think, and you know, that's where I want to add my value to the city long term. I think is in that side of guiding some of that development towards the type of places I'd like to see, and I think that people would want to see too. But again, the caution that I had is like, don't think that, you know, buying in Taylor right now is going to yield you a massive gain in the very short term. We're talking about, because it's a supply and demand thing too. Like for a newly developed area, that means there's going to be a lot of new home competition out there, which is going to keep the prices down for a while. They'll be higher, but they're not going to increase year over year like something in Austin would definitely do. So
well, one thing to think about too, did they not build, Samsung built that community right next to it when they put in their plant out there. They built that neighborhood next to it. I know a lot of Samsung employees were living out there for the plant. So this neighborhood right here.
Mm-hmm.
So did Samsung put it, because this road goes literally right to the plants.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it. I mean, Samsung's buying 1,000 acres out there. Do you think they're not thinking ahead and actually putting out, going to be putting in a development for their employees?
I mean, that's what Tesla's doing.
I'm super curious if Samsung is going to be on the rental neighborhood boat.
Oh, they'd be silly not to.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it makes full sense. I would do it if I was a big corporation bringing a big $17 billion plant. You think I'm not carving off $250 million to put in a neighborhood and rent back to employees? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, okay, this thought crossed my mind just very recently because I've been noticing a lot of the new approved developments have been that business model, right? They're housing developments. I just saw another one in Pflugerville that's going in that they're setting up as like a It's 1,000 homes, but they're getting set up in like a traditional lot and block square, like traditional type of old style neighborhood. But those are going to be kept and rented. So I'm wondering, like, and this is, I don't know the facts on this, is just kind of come up in my sitting around thinking, if institutional investors are so interested in investing in buying resale homes or new homes, then why wouldn't they, if they're the ones funding the developments, why would they even be interested in building developments where their intent was to sell that product, right? Because they don't need the cash in the short term. They're so cash flush, they need to find ways to invest their institutional money. So I don't understand. I don't think that you're going to, well, I think you'll see a shift over the next couple of decades where the majority of the developments will be a develop and hold rental model, because especially in a place like Austin, the numbers make way more sense to develop those, rent and hold, get through a full cycle, sell them to another round of investors. And then at the end of the life, you sell those homes individually to the end user. That's what they do in apartments.
You know, with those, so when I was in Big Pharma, one of the things that they wanted, what they would do is if you were, let's say, a college grad and they wanted you to work for them, I mean, they would help you relocate cross country, and they would, if you had a property, they would deal with the buying and selling of that property. But yeah, like you would remove that whole cost of acquisition and even that whole job description, really. Like you wouldn't need to do that. It's really just get in here. We've got a place for you. We'll cover that. Take that out of your. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity there. And for, let's see, 17 billion, 1,000 acres. How many houses can you fit in 1,000 acres?
I think it's, or
how many people?
It depends on the density.
Yeah.
I think it's like 5 to 7 per acre.
Single family.
Standard single families.
Yeah. 0.1. Most homes are like 0.18 is.
Yeah, but it's the number's less because you have to have a green space requirement.
Yeah, so you have to have your parks, you have to have your non-permeable, your retention ponds. My question, so the reason for that question is because if Samsung has 1,000 acres, why couldn't they just put it on 100 acres of land? Put their own neighborhood, like they own the land. Boom, come live here. It's college quarters.
Yeah, well, I think they will.
I think they will.
Yeah, which is why I wondered if they're going to do that. That if they were talking about like, hey, we can get an incentive of going to Taylor and buy this 1,000 acres now because we're getting a good deal on it, and we want to acquire the land at today's price anyway. We would rather not use this current very valuable land that we have close to the city of Austin.
Right.
We'd rather sit on that land and see what the future use is going to be. Because I don't know that you'll see more factories there. Even I think you're right. I think in the current property on Palmer, I think that they'll find a more valuable use of that land than manufacturing space, which is not very valuable price per square foot.
Brett brought up why is Samsung building in the US when it's much cheaper to build in Asia? I mean, we've got ships that are still not able to get in, get their supplies into port.
Yeah. Plus you have a partnership with Tesla. Yep. Tesla just signed a contract for 1,000 rental cars to Hertz or whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, there's a lot of your chips right there. I mean,
100,000.
Yeah. Plus you're getting all those tax breaks of building in Texas versus building in California. So there's that.
It's branding too, right? We've got a lot of, I'll just say, over the years, there's been some culture clash, and this is just one of those that cements it in like, hey, no, we're here investing in Texas with you guys.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's a genius marketing ploy.
I wonder if this whole, because it's been, our supply chain has been messed up for like a long time now, right? Mm-hmm. A year and 9 months or something, right? March of last year, probably. So, and they're still not flushed out. So for one pandemic, the supply chain got disrupted for what is probably 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
So they're probably thinking, well, if goods move freely from China and it's cheaper to manufacture there, then great. That's an easy number to calculate. But if you have to wait a year to get supplies, I think the higher cost of producing in the United States, but having them available, like what you're saying, is a better situation for the local manufacturers.
So this is kind of a rhetorical question, but but does anybody know what percentage of iPhones are actually Samsung parts? Because we also have a lot of Apple. So RAM, memory in your computer, a lot of that Samsung, a lot of the hard drives, Samsung.
I think all the screens are.
All the screens, all the monitors. So we have Dell here, Samsung, right?
Yeah.
Apple,
all the Apple screens.
They're making the Mac Pro here.
Yeah,
Samsung.
Apple's what, $1 billion campus up there.
There's a GM Tech Center here too.
There's a what?
GM General Motors Tech Center here as well.
Oh,
so
really?
I could see some more manufacturing coming here.
Here's the thing: this particular plant is for silicon. Silicon, sorry, not the right thing. For silicon, like it's to be able to create chips, right? It's not for some of the other hardware. It's just for chips, and they said they won't even be producing from the factory till 2024.
Yeah.
So that's our logistical issue. Samsung's creating, let's say they are 25% of the global or the supply in the US of silicon, and they won't even be ready till 2024. There's your answer for some of the supply chain. 92%. Yeah, but not all that Samsung. LG is also Korean, right?
Yeah, but he's right. TSMC is the subcontractor.
Got it. Thank you.
So even if they're making it, the first step of the process, if I'm not mistaken, happens at that manufacturing facility, even if the other manufacturers get the next step.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that though.
And it's interesting because you have all these companies like Tesla, like Apple, and Google that are all like, well, we're going to create our own chips.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to rely on outside forces.
Yeah. I think some of the auto manufacturers just said that they're making their own too.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. Ford has Ford has cornfields full of trucks just sitting there that are brand new that they're going to have to demolish because they couldn't get chips.
Ford is the same company that was trying to use corn for oil, though. So I'm not right.
Were they? I mean, you can use it for gas.
Yeah, for gas. Sorry, for propulsion.
Right, to make gas. So, what do you think? Like right now, if somebody is looking to invest in one of these areas, right? So we've pulled up. Let me pull up the map again. So we're looking at kind of all these areas north. If you had to put your buying hat on right now and pick a spot to purchase based on Samsung, like let's say you're going to buy based on Samsung, where do you think it would be? Where would your money go?
That's all.
Because it's between the two and it's in Austin proper.
Yeah, Kevin,
you.
I like that area just because I like it.
Tech Ridge is it's a pretty sweet area.
I like Tech Ridge. There's a little bit of the area. I think it's not quite as polished in the area as I think it could be, but I think with a little bit more serious investment, I think it would be much more beneficial. Yeah, that's what I like.
I thought for sure Ian was going to say Round Rock.
Ian was going to say it. It's interesting because it is along 79, but I also here's where it's going to get you, and we talk about this 1,000 times. If it's going to be new build or if it's going to be resale, that's going to be a factor, right? Because the taxes.
So. I'm actually going to say somewhere that's not somewhere you haven't talked about, and I'm going to still say I'm buying west. I'm buying Brushy Creek. I'm buying Leander, and I'm buying South Austin.
Oh yeah, of course.
With this news, I think it's good news. But think about it. Brushy Creek, if you're looking right here, still only has like 39 homes on the market in this area. Well, and this is this time of year, right? I mean, granted, we're only at 3,400 units. But look how low inventory we have in some of these areas. I'm still buying in these areas because even though Samsung's going to be off far to the east, think about some of those executives that want to buy, like let's say, or rent with views in Leander, right? Crystal Falls Parkway, stuff like that, or want to live somewhere like in Brushy Creek. I'm looking in those areas still because I think you're going to have a lot of executives or people are higher up in there that are still going to want to not live next to the plant, and they're going to have maybe a couple days where they're not working, they're working remote. So I'm still looking in those areas because I think those areas still benefit from Apple, all the other companies. So that's why I'm still saying I think you're going to have good money in a property buying in Pflugerville, Hutto, one of those areas. But I'm still saying, all right, maybe I look at something in the 650 range and try to get something for 650 in Brushy Creek versus buying something for 400 with a stupid high tax rate of 3.09% over in Pflugerville.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that's so. What's the percentage of executives at a manufacturing plant right there? 10, 5%?
Percent? Oh yeah, percent.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, you probably
actual
have
employees
in some sort of management capacity. You probably have, 150.
Yeah,
Of
and
that,
then
yeah.
and then in today's climate, how many of them are actually physically going to have to be in the plant?
Right. Thanks for watching this short of the REALMigos podcast. For more live streams, hit here. For more clips, hit here. We'll catch you on the next one.